Welcome to a special episode of Talk to People podcast. And it kind of takes us back a year ago. Out of the rubble, we were here, and times change within people's lives at different times. We call them, I love to call them, seasons of life. We plant and we harvest, and we plant and we harvest, and then sometimes it's just time for change. And this week, I have a very special guest, and it's a gentleman that when I first met him, I just started to talk to him a little bit. And for about 6-7 years, we knew each other, we were cordial, but it was really last year when we sat in this place, in a place called The Rubble, that I had great plans for where we were sitting, and he was on the city commission at that point. And of course, I'm talking about my now friend, Travis Flood.
Hey, sir.
Travis, man, wow, a lot of change going on in your life.
Yeah, absolutely.
I heard the announcement. I watched the city commission meetings online. You can do that on demand. It's a very easy way to get solid information and get a full feel of what's going on in our city and the decision making. And Travis, when they called that special meeting, I didn't know what it was for. And last week, you resigned your post, your volunteer position as a city commissioner.
Yeah.
And why did you do that?
Just to make just the 100% truth of the matter, I had gotten to the point where I was already struggling with some of the things that the sacrifices and things that were coming with that position, and then as the just the continued buildup of life and the continued buildup of the stressors and the continued focus on city things and then work things and then family things, I'd gotten my priorities out of whack, and I realized that what I'd gotten into the commission for, what I'd really truly wanted to do, I was able to accomplish a lot of that, but then in the aftermath, I was always losing. I was also losing a lot too, and so it began to affect the relationships with my family. It began to kind of change internally how I viewed the world and things, and I just didn't like where it's taking me. I found myself more frustrated and upset than I did happy, and realized that through a series of real conversations with some people how much it was affecting my kids and the people closest to me. And I realized that there was far too much to lose in staying and finishing out the term versus what I would gain by doing that. And so 100% just me needing to refocus my priorities, me focus on my family and do my best to focus on that, and then my job, and then, and the community in that order. So,
Sure.
Yeah.
And in what we do with Talk to People, we know that it's hard and awkward to talk to people about tough things. Mm-hmm. And that's why we do this kind of stuff. And this is off the cuff. When I found out, I called Travis and I said, hey man, would you like to sit down with me? I would like you to sit down with me and we talk about these things, because talking face to face is not always easy, but this is not scripted. I don't have points that I'm going to make, but I do have great feelings about what's going on here, because I think we have a living example of why our city commission suffers and why our city is held back for centuries, honestly, for a century. We're over 100, and I think we're close to 115 years old now. And for public servants to be treated locally like they're treated brings bile up in my mouth. And there's many, I think that there's very few factors to that, but there's many stories about it for people, just like my friend who I'm sitting next to, and I get upset. I get upset. But first of all, Travis, so for like out of the blue, somebody says, "You've been having an affair with another commissioner."
Right. Right.
All right, that's juicy.
Yeah.
That's something that even when I hear it, I'm like, whoa, who? What? Fill me in, because it gets things rolling. Travis, have you had an affair on your wife?
No, absolutely not. Absolutely not.
If you ask questions, you get answers.
Yeah.
If you ask them to the right people. Travis, you lost your marriage in these last 3 years.
Yeah.
How was that outcome impacted by your volunteer service as a city commissioner?
One of the hardest things is just admitting whenever you lose sight of things and the things that you're trying to do, and even though they're good things, that they end up hurting more than doing good. And so in the added stress, in the added time away, in added things that were there, it was impacted significantly, because there was times whenever I knew that the world around me was spinning hard and spinning fast, and I should have changed my focus then. I should have been more intentional about my words and my things and my deeds, but what ended up happening was I believed I could do both well. And we've talked about this. I believed I could serve the city, and I could love my family, and I could take care of them, and I could do those things both well. But the truth of the matter was I was doing one pretty good, and the other one was getting what was left over of me, and what was left over wasn't enough, and it wasn't good, and it changed the status of a lot of things. Changed some friendships. It changed my relationship with my ex-wife, and it changed a lot of things, and I can't blame everything that happened between us on that, and that would be foolish and silly to do that, but I 100% can say that added to the stressors, it added to the frustration, it added to the change in my heart and my world that kept getting in the way for things to be what they should have been. And so,
well, as a citizen, it sure seems like answers to our problems in our community are simple.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, we've got problems, and why can't you guys, and now you're an ex-commissioner, so say whatever.
Yeah, sure.
Why can't you guys fix our problems? And let's name one. Let's say homeless.
Right.
Why can't you fix homelessness, Mr. Commissioner? Ex-commissioner,
right,
working in the whole of let's fix this problem.
Right. Well, and I think that's it. It's, if this was a pothole, there's a few ways you'd fix a pothole. You could either take out all the damage and then repave or asphalt or re-concrete the hole and do it that way, or you can put some patching agent or something like that on it to keep it good until you can redo the whole road, or you can do, there's just numerous different ways. You can just ignore it, put a cone up, whatever, and say drive around the pothole. It's not a fixing it, but it's, something to do. Homelessness is a different situation because it's human beings, and with the things that come and go as far as fixing something, it's a pothole doesn't have to agree to whatever measure you're using to fix it. A pothole doesn't have a set of rights that were given to us by God and the great nation that we live in. And then also on top of it, the idea that there are so many different ways to go about that, and in a situation where there's so many real consequences for getting it wrong. If you patch a pothole wrong, then you tear it out and you do it again. If you interact or do life or try and fix a homeless individual and you do that wrong, there can be real consequences for that through the city and through each other and through things. And so knowing that and that was it. It's like what we always wanted to do, what we always talked about doing is something different than what legally we could do and what morally we could do and what we already struggle sometimes having negative ideals out there about what Shawnee is and our relationship with homelessness, and that stinky thing that came out a long time ago about this is the worst place for a homeless person to live. And then we have amazing individuals working their tails off to try and love on these individuals and these families and people, but then the overall problem is so big and so big that it's not just a one and done. And so that you can't just come in and demand that this be how we fix this, especially when you have a city that's just absolutely strapped because of just recent events, from tornado to changes in overturn in city government and things that just are it, and getting that consistency moving forward and all the things, it's hard.
So you touch on something, overturning of city government. First of all, the tornado was 7 months ago, so
right.
We've had the homeless problem for a couple of years.
Yeah.
I understand that, but the meat of that is that it's not simple.
Yeah,
is that you don't just say, oh, put a whip on the police's back to go enforce and clear out homeless people so we don't see them anymore. If we're looking at the issue, the reason we're seeing more of them is because the work on homelessness has now been in place and rolling for about 2 years. And now the homeless numbers are down, but they're more visible than ever because we're getting rid of all the hidden camps. Those are being watched. Those are being taken care of and cleaned up. So they're not habitable for homelessness. And number two, how crazy is it that we say we have the worst homeless situation in the state, but yet we're reported as the worst place for homelessness in all of the county? I would think the people who don't like homelessness would love the report that we were the worst place in all the world for homeless. It's just not simple.
Right.
So know that. And when you hear a simple person telling you a simple answer about a city problem, take another look and go ask somebody who has the full information, not 5% of the book. Second, our roads. You brought up a pothole. Our roads suck. That's what I hear. I mean, I drive here 95% of the time, so I really don't realize how sucky our roads are, I guess. But our roads suck, Commissioner. Why do our roads suck, Travis?
Well, that's infrastructure. It's failing sewer and water lines. It's every time we have an extreme heat or an extreme cold, the expansion of those old lines causes a water leak. And every time you dig a hole to fix the water leak and you put it back, and it gets put back to the best of our people's abilities, without redoing the whole street. And then and again, it goes back to funds and funding, and so there's always
Meaning that it's expensive to
yes.
fix
Oh my
a
goodness.
water line.
Yes, it is expensive.
Okay, and I want to stop right here because this is another one of those things that just got under my craw.
Yeah.
Okay, well, there was a water line that broke downtown in the area, and then all of a sudden the accusation was because a commissioner lived on the block that water line had to be fixed. It was a special favor to a commissioner. And the commissioner was benefiting, and commissioners are getting this, and that's what was being insinuated. You've been on the commission for 3 years. I would like to know, for that particular water line fix, was it a favor to a commissioner, Travis?
No, absolutely not. In fact, the commissioner, because of the cross street that it was naming, didn't even realize that was directly across from their property until they got into looking at some of the things in it. And so it's silly to think that because I'm pretty sure there were several other houses on that street and on that block.
Mm-hmm.
And had it been one house, and it deaded into that house, then that maybe you can make that jump or to say that. But to think about the fact that somehow because a commissioner had a piece of property there, that it superseded every other individual that lived there and needed that water line to be replaced. Just like, what in the world? How did that,
Because it's simple.
Yeah.
That's why. It's because it's simple. Mm-hmm. Oh, look at this. What could be wrong? Here's 5% of what could be wrong. So let's stop the 95% of benefit that goes to all of the citizens. When you hear a simple accusation, know that you're probably looking at the 5%, meaning you're not seeing the whole picture. And what we really want everybody to understand is that's when you talk to people who have 100% of the information. Oh, and then that comes back to, but as soon as you became a commissioner, I couldn't trust you anymore.
Right.
I mean, you were special.
Right.
You're government now.
Right.
Oh no.
Yeah.
I need to listen to everything being said about you.
Yeah.
Rather than talking to you about it. As a commissioner, how often did people come to you and talk with you, Travis, and not at you? I want you to eliminate the times in which people come and talk at you rather than talking with you. And how many times does that happen very often, that somebody will come and talk with you about it?
I probably, in the 3 or so years since I've been doing this, I could probably count on both my hands how many times that's happened versus somebody randomly posting something on a social media site that tags me in it, and I not even hear about it until somebody a few days later says, hey, so and so saying this about this decision, about your ward, about what you're doing. I'm like, what? Why? No. And it was very limited. Very limited the number of times. There are some amazing folks down here that as soon as they had a question and they needed something, they would come right to me and we would talk it out, and I would tell them where I could help them or I couldn't help them. But I would say it was very, very rare. And so that was.
And I'm saying, man,
yeah.
That's a problem that we have, is that we don't talk with the people that we vote in.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, when you vote for somebody, it's because you want them to represent you, but then we forget it as soon as we hear something negative. We start listening to other people rather than talking with the people that we have voted. We start talking at them. Just like a crowd mentality. We start talking at them, and it's so easy when we hear negative stuff going on. It's so easy for us to buy into that. I'm telling you, just like I said to start this, I get antsy when I hear that kind of stuff. When I hear that it's negative, like, oh, they're getting favors here, or oh, this road still isn't fixed and it sucks, or oh, this problem, why aren't they concentrating on this problem? Well, again, I can genuinely I can say with all of the elected officials that I've talked with, wherever it be, and there has literally been a lot of them, so very few get talked with about issues. Why is it like this? Why is it coming down this way? Well, it sure looks this way. Well, why does it look this way? How can we fix this? What is it that I can do maybe to help in this situation? Travis, would that be beneficial for community members to do that with their commissioners?
Absolutely. One, because it would give me an opportunity, one, to speak to their problem, and then take that problem and to the proper channels. Whether or not I had the ability to make any significant changes in that moment would shake out later. But the biggest thing was if the only thing that I ever heard were from an individual was not the conversation about what we want to fix, but versus the conversations about all the things I'm doing wrong, or all the things that are,
being said about you.
Being said about me, versus actually working towards fixing problems and working towards solving the issues that we have in our city. And it became to where we were trying, and that's this kind of thing. I felt like I was trying to prove who I was as a person, more than actually working towards doing the good things that I committed to do for our city. And then it became defending me and defending the other commissioners and defending the people that I worked with and my friends and family, and
it becomes overwhelming.
It does. It becomes overwhelming.
And then you don't want to do it anymore.
And then you don't want to do it anymore.
And then you can't do it anymore.
Yeah, exactly.
And that's a problem. Consistency is a problem. It has always been a problem. And it's because there are no simple solutions. And when you hear people bring a simple solution, you have to understand, as community members, it's not that simple. Travis, when you got on the commission, you probably had some ideas on things that you wanted to fix. Did you have any imagination of how complex city government actually is in order to fix anything in our community when you started?
No.
Let's gauge it from before day one, when you were just a citizen and you were like, let's go, we're going to do this, to a year into your tenure.
Right.
I'd like, on a scale to 1 to 10 of simplicity, being that 1 is like, yeah, that's agreeable to how I thought when I got there a year before, to 10 being, God, this is so much more complicated than I ever could have imagined. Where on that scale would be accurate?
So I would go actually, if being simply having a simple thought process on how to make things happen is 0 to 10. Like I literally thought with everything inside of me that all it took was somebody that cared. All it took was somebody that was willing to stick their neck out there and take on some of the blows, because I knew that there were chances that people weren't going to care for decisions, things that we made. But I very naively thought that as long as I'm doing my absolute very best, as long as I'm trying to do good things, as long as I'm working towards creating something better, that we're going to be okay. And the blows that would come, there would be enough people around that would know me and know about me and know my heart and why I was doing it, to today, where it's unbelievable.
Okay, so I want to ask you, because I need clarity. I want clarity in this answer. So that being simple at 0, what is the truth of the matter of the complexity? If we're going all the way to 10, how complex is everything?
About a 13 or 14.
Well above what you could imagine.
Yeah.
I mean, it's crazy, and this is not just Travis saying this. I'm telling you, I have talked to dozens of people who have served, and every one of them have this answer: is that you just don't understand everything that's facing you. Well, why don't you just talk about everything that's facing you, Travis? Why don't you
Right.
just be transparent?
Right.
Why are you holding everything back from
Yeah.
us, the one who entrusted you and voted? Obviously, you're hiding something.
Right. Right.
Tell me about why you can't talk to people when you're a commissioner.
Well, there's a lot of things that we're not able to speak to because of different rules and different regulations. There's different procedures that we have to follow. There's different operational, rules, and you don't show up and get, when you sign up at the county house to get your name on the list, they don't give you the list of all the things that you can and cannot do and how you can and cannot do them. A lot of those are internal. A lot of those have things that even as you you go through them, depending on the situation, those things can change, and it's mind blowing the number of times whenever people we would have an issue, we'd have something happen, we know that we need to address it, but there would be nobody that we could talk to about it other than city manager and the city attorney.
So were those regulations made up in-house, just to make sure that we keep everything under wrap, or are they bigger than just the city of Shawnee?
Yeah, no, it's bigger than the city of Shawnee, and it's it's legal issues and then also operational issues created by the state and how you do things, and through the Oklahoma Municipal League, which is kind of like the governing body that tells us how we're supposed to do stuff, and then also just the rules and regulations that our city created a gazillion years ago, and those have ebbed and flowed, and depending on which piece of paper you're looking at, you can get different views on the same subject, and so it's really. Sometimes the answer is in this no man's land that you could probably find yourself too, but getting back is really hard, and that's one of the things is that it's not so much a right or wrong or a passion for something or not for something, or for or against something. It's operating within those rules and those,
So would I venture to say that it's much simpler to find something wrong with one thing in whatever the big scope of things are that you're trying to accomplish? It's a lot simpler to find one thing wrong with what's going on than it is to make everything work to the good for everybody.
Right. No, absolutely. It's
much simpler to do.
It is. It's anybody. I can go anywhere and point out any flaw. If I look hard enough, I'm going to find a flaw in anything that's going on anywhere. But what is a whole lot harder is to put faith and trust in the system and put faith and trust in the hard work that is being put into things. And dadgummit, I don't know of one successful movement, one successful thing that hasn't had to evolve or hasn't had to get to a certain point and then draw back and redraw a set of plans or redirect ourselves along the way, and pointing out every misstep as a sheer failure or just an absolute lack of any kind of faith or trust in the people that are trying to do these good things is something that's going to
it's something that holds us back.
It does, and it keeps the momentum from rolling. It shifts the focus off of what we should be focusing on into things that in all reality do not matter.
Mean less than 5% of the total output of what can go on. And when I say 5%, I think I'm being generous with how that stuff hinders all of us and has always hindered all of us. And I'm telling you, that's how the 80% of people in our community are controlled so often for the decisions being made for our city government. And we can't allow that manipulation to continue. Travis, we just had to spend $120 million on a water system. How could you let that happen? And how could you, golly, have put us in $120 million way in order to have water in our city?
Right. Yeah. And that's just, it's one of the things that, like, that somehow that becomes our fault.
Well, and you trying to make money, because I think right away, I mean, we had in place, we had water utility raises in our bill that were determined 8 years ago or something like that.
Right.
And we're telling people that the we're either going to raise the water rates or we're not going to raise the water rates.
Right.
And we ended up voting not to raise the water rates and to do it through sales tax. But then we had a water rate issue. And so you guys are liars.
Yeah.
You guys are, what's up, Commission?
Right,
Obviously, you were just lying to get something passed.
Right. No, so that's the thing is we couldn't predict the pandemic. We couldn't predict the insane rise in costs of goods and services. We couldn't predict all those things that caused that thing to double. But then also there's no way that we could have predicted the just sheer miss on the first bid on how it was going to take to replace it. And in those situations, we can only trust the person who's standing in front of us saying, this is what we think it's going to cost us. And that information is based on the information given to somebody else. And if somebody along the chain is woefully wrong, then it dominoes down the hill, And so, and that's the thing is, there has to be a certain amount of trust in that situation. And sometimes, like I said, those are the things where you miss on. It wasn't intentional. It wasn't like anybody showed up one day and were like, hey, I'm gonna miss this so bad that it cost them, a gazillion dollars to fix later. It was just terrible circumstances.
Well,
and all the things.
You're not even mentioning that the infrastructure needed to be replaced 50 years ago before you got it in your lap.
Absolutely.
I mean, so that is 20 commissions ago were the first ones to start facing the issue.
Yeah, absolutely. And then on top of it, every time we turn around, the cost of producing good, clean water, the chemicals go up, and the rates, the delivery rates, and employee rates go up, and that just doesn't magically appear out of nowhere. It's not like we sell 10 more gallons of water and we make the money that we need to pay for the increase in chemicals or the increase in labor.
I think what you're saying is, 5 years ago I was paying $1.99 for a carton of milk. Now I'm paying $4 for a carton of milk. You mean because milk prices double, gas prices double, I mean my shirt prices double, everything has doubled. You mean it costs more to do business as a utility company in order to pump water and do all of the things that need to be done?
Yeah.
It costs more?
Yeah.
And so we have to raise the rates?
Yep. Yeah.
Okay, and I want to be really clear that rate, again, was already scheduled from a decision 6 years ago. I said 8 years ago. I'm probably closer being at 6 years ago now. And that had nothing to do with the election. So, Travis, let's get back to the roads for a second. Because I want to ask you, if I need to fix, let's just say I need to put a sidewalk from Harrison, just a sidewalk, from Harrison to Kickapoo. How much does that cost? Give or take.
Several $100,000 to millions, depending on all the things.
Well, okay, would it be fair to say that 1 mile stretch of sidewalk overall through the whole process cost $1 million?
Yeah, pretty easily. Yes.
And we're not talking about the road.
Right.
We're talking about putting a sidewalk in.
Right.
We have to come to grips with how much it costs to do everything that we wanted to do. And so my biggest hope through this, Travis, is I I want people to be able to hear a commissioner who's freshly stepping away
Yeah.
to say, simple fixes really don't exist
Right.
on any big issue.
Right.
And if somebody is pushing a simple, or they're pointing a finger at why it's wrong, they have a simple issue. And they want you to get riled up. And they want you to look at them and say, yeah, that's right. That's how it should be done. And I'm telling you, that's an easy thing to do. But most of the time, it's not the grand picture. There's a lot of things that are brought up, Travis, at the beginning of the meeting by
Citizens.
thank you, by citizens talking at you guys.
Right.
Why don't you answer any of their questions?
Well, mainly because of the way the system is built. It doesn't. It allows for an opportunity for a response in that moment, but what it does not do was allow for any kind of real conversation about it, and it doesn't allow for us to really do anything other than either agree with or disagree with the comment. And in all reality, the most of the time, if there's something that we want to do, we try to take notes and then ask the city manager about it later and say, hey, what's going on with this? But most of the time, whenever it's issues that are so absolutely, you take an issue that's brought up and it's 15% true, and just, and the rest is just like completely asinine. There's really not a point in addressing it, because there's no way of answering the question whenever it's so absolutely false that there's no truth to it. And so it's more productive just to kind of shake your head and hope for the the next opportunity to speak to it. So
Yeah, when it's laid out very simply, it's not being laid out fully in your issues that you deal with. Travis, in the number of years that you've been involved, what do you feel is the greatest accomplishment, or some of the great things that have accomplished through the city post-pandemic?
Oh my goodness!
And I throw that out off the cuff.
Yeah, post-pandemic, I think that the continued growth and relationship with our local tribal entities, especially with the CPN, and continually working to rebuild those pathways to trust and support and love for one another. I think the renewed sense of what the pandemic gave us was it kind of gave us a reset and allowed us to go, man, there's a lot of things that are important in this world, and doing things with my friends and family, and the great things like the park, which all that stuff was started way before the pandemic, but it was created or was finished afterwards. And
it went to construction afterwards.
Yeah, it was one of the greatest things that our city's ever decided to do, and it will be something that for a long, long time our families will benefit from it. And then I think just as awful as it was, and as hard as it was to still be in the middle of, the tornado showed us what we could be like. It showed us for a few weeks, it showed us how much we could actually care for each other, how we could put aside some of the biases and some of the things that separate us, and focus on what brought us together, because our city was hurting. Our city needed us all to stand up, and for the most part we did, and that was amazing to see. And it'll be another thing that, again, although I hate that it happened, I was very, very thankful to be part of of seeing how we as a city could love each other when we truly need to.
Okay, so talking about loving each other, first of all, I love that you put on the top of the list the relationship that with the CPN as a major victory for the city and for our citizens as a whole. I think that's a beautiful thing.
Right.
And this is where I come from with this next question, because I honestly believe the mayor had a lot to do with the intelligence level, the knowledge of how to perhaps help bring things together, and then one of the most brilliant men in our community, and has been for the last 45 years, is the chairman of the CPN, and how they both were able to see, along with their associates and everybody, how this can benefit the entire area, not just one side or the other. I was very happy with that. And just a few weeks ago, I heard an individual pointing fingers and mentioning places in our charter or something about, and the mayor did this, blah, 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 and quoted a section in a verse, and quoted a section in a verse, and quoted a section in a verse. And I'd like an answer to quoting a section in blah, blah. And I'm going, wow, that's interesting. It looks there that they're undermining the mayor. You've worked with the mayor for 3 years.
Yes.
I've known him for a while. What's your thoughts on our current mayor, Ed Bolt, and his competency as mayor?
So I will tell you this right now. You would struggle to find a human being that is more caring, more kind, and more devoted to finding the best solution forward in any type of problem. Mayor Bolt is probably one of the most thoughtful, intentional humans that I've ever met in my life. He's not perfect. None of us are. But I promise you, he's going to show up. He's going to give you everything that he's got. And he's going to lead with a calm, steady head and heart. And he's going to look for the best solution to the problem. And he's going to do it in a way that isn't just based on his ideas or his, it's not like a gut thing. It's like, well, by God, I'm the mayor, so you guys have to. It literally is through conversations and through meetings and through examples from other towns, other cities, other people that have built pathways in these, to fix these things. It's not just he's sitting around one day and decides, well, since I'm mayor, I think I should do this way. I don't think I've ever heard him say that. I take it back. I can confirm 1,000,000% that I have never heard him say, I'm the mayor, you have to do it this way just because I'm the mayor. That, never said that.
That's not his personality at all.
Would never say that.
You describe complex.
Mm-hmm.
He's a complex individual. He understands there's going to be a lot of different ideas.
Right.
And he'll bring an idea to the table, but he is not adverse to someone talking to him about his idea in a constructive way, and that idea being taken off the table or that idea being adjusted.
Yeah.
He is not in it because of his idea, and that's because he understands it's complex and not simple. And keep your eyes and ears open for someone who is giving you their answer and it being the way, because they're probably looking at it very simply.
Right.
Very simply on a complex issue, and talking about your compatriots on that, because I, for one, am very sad to see Travis leave, because I understand how consistency is what our community needs. I say it takes 2 years from drinking out of a fire hose in order to even get your bearings straight as a new commissioner. And so anytime we lose a commissioner, we're losing 2 years of intelligence and endurance of taking information from a fire hose. But I hear a lot of things said about the commission as a whole. We'll take the mayor out, and the other commissioners get brought up all the time. I think this is one of the best sitting commissions that we have ever had in my 40 plus years in our community. I'm a little biased. Sure, I might be at that age where I have an understanding more, and there may have been a better one, but in my opinion, we have the best sitting commission that we've ever had. Travis, the other 6, yourself, so the other 5 commissioners that are up there, which one of them are out for themselves?
I don't think any of them are.
Okay, would you tell me if you did?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, so the commissioners, and now I want you to be included. What is it that makes you guys turn over as quickly as it happens? Why do people leave the commission?
I think that, I mean, I can only speak to
Number one
myself.
reason.
Yeah.
I'm looking for the number one reason.
I think the number one reason
and you know I'm
is,
hitting the tree.
Yeah, no. So I'm going to say that the number one reason is that when your hope to create something good becomes smaller than the fear of what you're going to lose by staying, whether it be relationships, whether it be financial, whether it be whatever, I think that's when people start to turn over. And then also just the idea that there's some individuals are able to disconnect from that and to say, you know what, I don't care what anybody says about me. I'm going to do my job, and I'm going to do my job well. And if they don't like it, they can go, they can go climb a tree. Who cares? But that wasn't who I. That's not who I am. My heart and my desire to make things better and to grow and to help things. It was and still is there, and whenever I realized that I was in jeopardy of losing more than I've already lost, it no longer became worth it.
So do you think that that's common on the commission, or do you think that's just a Travis thing?
No, I think that's common. I think that as far as other commissioners that I've talked to as former mayors, I think they run a course because they realize, one, how difficult it actually is, and then two, if you're not some kind of narcissistic psycho, then it really tears you down, and so
it's a very painful position to hold.
Yeah.
And I want to articulate, and correct me if I'm wrong, because people are throwing spears at you in ridiculous manner all the time.
Right.
Would that be inaccurate?
Yeah, no, I think that'd be accurate. But then also too, there are times whenever life happens to all of us. I know that, not to speak of another man, but former Commissioner Weaver, he was, up there and doing what he thought to be best. But then he had some significant life issues that he had to be having an honest conversation with himself and go, man, this is more important to me and my health and wellness and my family and he stepped down whenever he felt like he needed to, and it's part of it. You've got to focus on what matters most to you. Not that the city didn't matter to him. I talked to him several times about different things, and he's still very much has a heart and desire for the city to do good. Same thing with me. I still very much have a heart and desire for the city to do good, but I knew that it was time for me to refocus and redirect my life. And so understanding that happens, understanding that it's not easy, and that if you are somebody that is already in the public eye a lot and already doing good, trying to do good things, and you add that on top of it, and then it just kind of compounds. And not to say that, and whenever I said that you got to be a narcissistic psycho to be in there for multiple terms, that's not necessarily.
No, you didn't say it like that.
It was just
you
saying,
said it in order to withstand the onslaught.
Yeah.
That's almost the position that you have to have.
Yeah, right.
Because there is such an onslaught.
Right. Because I know there's been commissioners and mayors that have been multiple terms, and they've done
Which are great people.
great people and done good
They're
things.
They're strong.
Yeah, and the heart, and they've.
But those are the unique ones
Yes.
that can handle the onslaught
Right.
in comparison of the negative said about you,
Right.
as opposed to the encouragement you received.
Right.
What is that percentage of negative to encouragement? And let's take out the top 5 people who encourage you. We remove the top 5 people who encourage you, because hopefully we all have that. It might only be 3 or 2 or 1, but we take away from that, from total strangers.
Right.
What about the encouragement you receive versus the negative that comes, the onslaught that comes on you? What percentage is that, roughly?
I'd say it's probably 75 negative, 25 positive.
And we've got to change that.
Yeah.
We have to change that as a community. The number one thing that people talk about when they talk about our community and visiting here is how great the people are. And I believe that. And I know, Travis,
Absolutely.
you believe that.
Yeah, I do.
But the 80% of us remain silent. We listen, and we might get, just like me, get a hook in our mouth because this is juicy. I'm going to go this direction. Don't allow that to happen. We need to start talking with our people who are volunteering their time and their service to make good decisions that represent you and me. And I know, Travis, for a fact, knowing you, that that's what you, and I believe, and I know every single commissioner and the mayor, I believe they're all doing that right now.
Oh, absolutely. And I want people to know that there's.
Look right here and tell them what you want them to know.
There's a lot of good that you can do. There's a lot of good that I was able to do. And I hope that whoever steps into this position, whoever runs for this position in the next election, will have the strength and the true desire for the overall Shawnee and Ward 3 to grow and be the awesome, amazing place that it can be. And that although this is my story and this is a story that we're trying to change for future commissioners, that it shouldn't be something that people should be afraid of, because it's going to be hard, because we've got to find good, solid, amazing people to step in these roles. And it is a volunteer role, and we have different things in our worlds that ebb and flow, and had I been a few years older and my children out of the house and not had as much need to focus on them, then the outcome would have probably been a lot differently. Had I hadn't had the combination of the crazy things going on through my work and through my personal life, the outcome probably would have been differently. But it. So I want people to know that this is still a city worth serving, still a city worth sacrificing for.
Yeah.
There's still so many good things that can be done, and it can't be somebody that has a desire to lead with fear and hate. We have so many of those things that already kind of crash into the views of things, and if it's not somebody that's leading with love, it's not somebody that's leading with hope and joy for what the city can be. If everything about them, every bit part of their message is fear, every part of their message is anger and accusational, everything is all that, then that's not somebody that's going to be able to work well with our city. It's not somebody
that's usually somebody who's pretty simple.
Yeah.
And we overcome the accuser of the brethren by the truth.
Yeah.
And by our story. Yeah. By telling one another our story. And Travis, dude, I know it wasn't easy for you to accept this invitation to come down here. I told you that I wanted to ask tough questions,
Right.
because I think that can help clean out the wounds
Yeah.
that exist in our community. And I want to thank you very much, friend,
Yeah.
for what you've done over
Appreciate
the
it.
last 3 years and what you represent for everybody that you come in contact with. I appreciate you, Travis.
Thanks, sir. Thank you.
And you've watched another episode of the Talk to People podcast. We thank you very much for tuning in. Find it everywhere: YouTube, Facebook, Spotify, I don't know. Message us. The guys who know all of that stuff will tell you.
Yeah.
And we thank you. Remember to like, remember to share, and please remember that when it comes to city government, when it comes to any government, but we're focused on city government, it's not simple. Beware of the simple fix, because usually that's only about 5% of the entire issue, and the issue is more complex than the person who is sharing that simple with you. Thank you again for tuning in. Thank you again to our guest, Travis Flood, and I hope that you enjoyed the Talk to People podcast.